Join me as we take a trip to Africa, between Uganda and Kenya, the pride of the East Coast. Around the early 1970s. Let's go back there. It's a story of two people that mean a lot to me and who try to get married in trying times. A place where the sun never leaves and the landscapes are irresistible. A different view from the usual poor poster of Africa. A more confident Africa. But in Uganda, there was something afoot. There was something making people leave. In Nairobi, Kenya, subtropical temperatures blew through the city at a steady pace. The long coast along the Indian Ocean brought foreigners from East India and abroad. The wide plains and national parks were home to such animals when seen on TV arise senses of fear and amazement. Allah's work, truly. This is just a backdrop to the city of Nairobi, the said destination for young African entrepreneurs. And it was a calm time, a calm before the storm, if you will. Young men had aspirations to become doctors and pilots and engineers, came streaming out of the airports and bus stations. And young women left the confines of their home with goals of holding a high secretarial position or a teaching job, coupled with a beautiful family to boot. And in the midst of all this was the two, Ahmed and Sophia, who both came from Uganda as well, to try their luck in the big city. And on this fateful day, Sophia was just doing her own thing, until she was startled by a hello in a thickened accent. Ahmed, bright-eyed, stood there with his flowing bell-bottoms. Sophia, always well-dressed, looked over to see who it was, and soon recognized the familiar face. You see, they were old schoolmates of yesteryear. They would rekindle memories of Uganda, being from the same school and all, and would discuss the current situation going on back home, and what it all means in general. But they were just young, and they were mainly just curious about each other, more than anything. So it was a tale of two tribes. Ahmed was a Nubian. There were people that resided more central in Uganda, and the Cholis, a tribe where Sophia was from, were based in the northern part, called Gulu, if you're ever in town. But in Uganda's horizon was a general called Idi Amin, who was just rising into power and seemed very adamant on building a new country. You see, the talkative Sophia recognized that there was something different about Ahmed, who was tall, calm, and well-mannered, while Ahmed was locked onto her sincerity and personality. They would soon give way to a storied courtship. At the same time, the age group to be wed in their tradition was fairly young, let's just say. So soon after graduation, the notion becomes quite urgent. So a certain destiny kind of loomed over them. Their budding friendship became something more. They were becoming quite serious about each other. But there was a bump in the road. You see, their two different faiths separated them. See, a lot of their Choli were actually Christian and were good people. But Islam has its guidelines set when interfaith marriage is concerned. Ahmed was also devout on his deen. But if maneuvered right and following the faith, the guidelines, there was a possibility. So the situation became a hot topic between the two of them and amongst their friends. But congruently, across the Kenyan border, Uganda was on fire. Because that man, named Idi Amin, and his regime, which was once promising a change in Uganda, was now showing signs of a harsh dictatorship. On a side note, a story brought to life in the movie Last King of Scotland.
I may wear the uniform of a general, but in my heart, I am a simple man. I am you.
This drove a wedge between the two tribes, because Idi Amin seemed to have a soft spot for the Nubians. So when the two broke the news to their respective families, it was met with obvious disdain. There was barriers, the likes of language, customs, and religion, including now a historic war that separated this possible marriage from happening. But there's a verse in the Qur'an that suited perfectly for such a situation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, what to say to the Jews and Christians about what is lawful between you and them. And the Jews and Christians are called the people of the book because they believe in past revelations of the one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, i.e. the Gospels, the Psalms, and the Torah, respectively. Surah Al-Ma'idah 5, verse 5. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful.
اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات وطعام الذين أوتوا الكتاب حل لكم.
This day are all things good and pure made lawful unto you. The food of the people of the book is lawful unto you, and yours is lawful unto them. Lawful unto you in marriage are not only the chaste women who are believers, but chaste women among the people of the book, revealed before your time, when ye give them their due dowers, and desire chastity, not lewdness, nor secret intrigues. If anyone rejects faith, fruitless is his work, and in the hereafter he will be in the ranks of those who have lost all spiritual good. Alhamdulillah. And an almost obvious prerequisite for this is that you always hold on to your deen. You never lose your faith. Oh, and the two? You'll be happy to know they finally got married, mashallah. A nikah was had. And through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they had avoided an altogether disastrous situation in Uganda, settling in Kenya indefinitely, which would lead to Sophia giving birth to 5 kids when traveling back and forth to Kampala when times were a little bit less problematic. Ahmed would take the reins eventually and lead his family to Canada. And Sophia, she became an amazingly strong matriarch of the family, raising the 5 with pride. Oh, and the last born? The baby of the family. Well, you're listening to him. Jazakallah khair. This is Low.